recording there.
That's why we say camera rolling.
Yeah. This is all new to me,
And then we say audio rolling.
Audio rolling.
And then the director, whenever they're ready, or the engineer, but mostly that's what the director says, action.
Okay, I'll do it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Free Flowing Health Podcast. It's going to be our first menage a trois. I have Israel P here, aka Sir Mix-a-Lot. And then we have my partner in crime and in life, Joe Boris. So welcome to the show, guys.
Hello.
This is kind of experimental. This happening live in our studio. So it's going to be a work in progress. And you guys get to witness the evolution out there, whoever's tuning in. So Israel is an artist and art director, probably amongst many other things. And we're going to dive into your story and talk about things like sacred geometry and tapping into creativity. And we're going to talk about ancient stuff and all kinds of fun topics, right?
Ancient stuff. I love stuff.
Yeah, I like ancient stuff. We
So-
are ancient stuff, aren't we?
We are, right? So where do we begin? Do we want to take it back to the beginning? And you could just give the audience a little bit of a backstory about who you are, where you've come from, and then bring us up to the current day to talk about what your gifts are and what you're offering out into the world.
Okay, yeah. So my name is Israel, and I am from Mexico, right?
Mexico?
I'm an immigrant, yeah. So I was like, but I jumped the border when I was like 5 years old, and that was an experience in itself. My mom, and then I kind of grew up in the Midwest, right, Chicago. Then I went back to Mexico from like from fourth grade to seventh grade. Then I moved back to Wisconsin, so even further into the Midwest. And then basically stood there through my high school years, learned a lot. And then I went to college in Chicago, and it was like my first time I'm like one of the first in my family to be in a college setting and all that, thanks to all the hard work my mom did. There's a whole story behind all the trials and tribulations, but we won't get into that this time around or whatnot. But eventually, I've been living in the Midwest for a while, and then I moved to Florida about 4 years ago because I went through a reincarnation. I sobered up, went to rehab. I had to do a whole change of life and basically just kind of step into the path that I was like meant to be stepping on, because there's a lot that happened and a lot that went wrong, but a lot of those things that went wrong were definitely like those blessings and lessons that you get. Now I'm like literally living my best life that I could imagine, all thanks to a lot of different things, like 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 AA is a big step, a big portion of it, going to rehab, and also maintaining it with like yoga and like meditation. A lot of like my creativity endeavors is what keeps me like afloat mentally, insanely, and keeps me like finding my purpose. So now I'm here in Florida, and I'm about to embark on a European art journey. That's gonna be pretty wild. I don't know. I leave on Sunday. That's like 2 days from now.
Yeah, so we grabbed Israel and we
Yeah.
made sure that like he made a guest appearance just in
Yeah.
time, right, Joe?
Yeah, we said, Israel, you're leaving the country. We need to
Yeah.
get you in right away, right now.
And I too hailed from somewhere else and just arrived and landed here in Florida 4 years ago, so we obviously have that in common. But before we dive into your European adventure, can you talk a little bit about what you're currently doing as an artist and what that looks like before we dive into the deeper concepts?
Yeah, righteous. I mean, as an artist, I think there's always an evolving thing, right? Right now, like professionally, I work downtown Fort Myers at the Sydney and Byrne Davis Art Center. That's where I do.
It's a cool
like,
place.
It's a great place. It was a blessing that came out of nowhere too. It was not planned, and like it just came to my hands, and I took it, and it's one of the best jobs I ever had in my life. Where I do graphic design, do video, audio, drones, whatever you wanna whatever I do is like content creation and all that stuff for our marketing material. So it's pretty cool to be in that setting and help, create all these events make happen, and I get to be the art director for that visual understanding of marketing. But anyways, so when it comes to like my other part of like that, like what really kind of like my passion is just creativity in general, like painting, design, drawing, and illustrations and stuff. And a lot of it is involved with different subject matters. So like I do get into sacred geometry, surrealism, a lot of dream state type motifs, psychedelic visionary art. I don't know if you ever really kind of know those terms, but it's kind of like basically tapping into the inner spiritual mystic world through the use of like yoga and breathing and sleeping, just dreaming, and then you kind of how to get into that world and then bringing it out through a pen or a brush or even through piano or drums, ukulele. Like those are like my main instruments. I love to play like
Oh, you should have brought one to play on.
That would have been cool, yeah.
Damn.
To play on camera.
Did I?
Hey, I have a ukulele actually.
Yeah,
Perhaps
play
we
some
can make it
ukulele
like
later.
I think anybody that's seen your art or that views your art would see that psychedelic kind of influence in there. You have some amazing paintings that you've done that both Lisa and I really appreciate and enjoy. And I think the neatest thing I saw was when we went to that art show in Cape Coral, and you had was it a light that was going on, and it was making the picture kind of move in a way. What was that? Explain that again.
So basically that's another tool that I use. So basically I go into traditional painting and all that stuff, and then I like to go to like parties or like raves and like different like festival type settings where I set up my artwork that like it's previously made, and I also do like live painting onto them at the same time. But what you call that is projection mapping. So what I do is I grab the painting, I set it up, whatever setting it is. Like sometimes it'll be outdoors, it'll be indoors, wherever I am, I put my paintings in a way to like accommodate to the setting or the scene. And then I made a rig for my projector and this machine that kind of like basically helps me scan all the painting, whatever's in front of it with a camera, and then that thing sends it to this box, and this box sends it to my computer, and then that's where I basically redraw over the paintings that I just scanned, and then I mess with it with effects, like lights and all that. Then I send it back to the projector, and the projector projects it onto itself.
It sounds really fancy and cool at the same time.
So then that's what creates this, like you're looking at a painting and it starts glowing, changing colors, it starts waving, it starts changing different visuals.
And just a thought on the psychedelic aspect, it's not like you need to take an outside substance. I don't know in your, road to recovery if that's included or not, but you can get there through natural means and through yoga and breath work and astral travel and through different mindful movement practices. So I don't know to what extent when you talk about psychedelic.
Like the word psychedelic is kind of interesting because it's the basic term psychic delios is like, I think it's like meeting or like the perceiving of God, like delios is like God, and then psychic is like the mind. I need to get back on my etymology about that.
Delios or maybe like deity.
So it's like basically like meeting with God, and like so like psychedelic isn't necessarily taking drugs.
Exactly. I just want to clarify.
And that's kind of one of the things is like I've gone through my journeys like on acid and mushrooms, and all that. But like when I sobered up, I definitely I feel like the biggest trip is reality. It's like this world is weird enough that I don't think you need to put any more input into it, because it's such a crazy idea to even be alive. So to be conscious is like wild.
And you
So,
can
like-
embody these different practices to reach
Mhm.
higher levels and states
Exactly.
of consciousness without having to take an external substance.
Exactly.
Even though I'm not saying that's good or bad, and everybody's on their path and
Yeah,
free to explore, of course.
definitely. And I think a lot of like that use was like something that, you know, you're opening doors,
Yeah.
right? As if you,
Mhm.
especially if you're like younger, you're doing some dumb shit, and you're like opening things, and you're like figuring your own self out. But I feel like there's also some trouble in there because sometimes like we open the door and we have fun, and then we close it right back up, and then the next day or like next week and you want to open it again and you close it again, and then you just, all you're doing is just opening, closing the doors of perception, and you're never stepping through the next door
Mhm.
and like understanding what the next level is. And I feel like most people that I've seen is they just keep taking these substances because they want to go back to
Right,
that,
right.
but it's like you can go back to that without the substance. I think the substance is like a key
Mhm.
and like opens the door, but then if you're like constantly doing that, you're just like raping your consciousness.
Right.
And then next thing you're frying out, your brain starts depleting because of all the abuse, and then you're like your tool is like eventually starts downgrading. Whereas like I feel like if you stop at a certain moment and then it's like understand that awakening,
Exactly.
then understand that the awakening has been there all along, because it's not like we're bringing down this insane intensity from somewhere. The insane intensity is already here,
And within.
and it's within and between us,
Yeah.
and like everywhere. Like we are like this little molecule floating in internal space. That in itself is a mind trip. So it's like the acceptance of that awakening is like the best possible way to understanding your inner self. How like there's this moment where like I used to be afraid of like infinity, right? Like I used to be like, fuck, we're floating, dude. And like, and then there's black holes out in the universe, and there's like all this crazy shit, and then I realized like when I was in like a geometry class where they taught us about the Mandelbrot set. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but Mandelbrot set is it's like an equation pattern thing where in the 80s it was discovered through computer equations, and then you type in this equation, and then it basically gives you the fractals.
Yeah, yeah.
That goes in forever. That's basically what that is. So that's when I first had the concept of infinity, like come to a realization that like no matter how far away we float out into outer space, it's never ending. And no matter how far we go into our hands, into these cracks, it's never ending. You could go into those atoms, and then within the atoms, there's even more quasars and all that crazy shit. So it's like grasping that idea, like just mind fucks you. So it took me a minute to like kind of get a grip of it, and then there's a moment of like when I like sobered up, that like the bliss of understanding that just because it's so infinitely big out there and so infinitely small within, that means that this right here is a present tense, it's like a present moment, is technically the middle of the universe in our perspective. So
That's deep.
so no matter how big it is out there and how big it is within us, this being it is a constant, is oneness. And that's like and that's like basically how I got to that point, was going through understanding sacred geometry.
That's what I want to talk about next.
Yeah.
That's a great segue.
Yeah.
First, can you define what sacred geometry is before we go too deep down the rabbit hole?
So sacred, the word sacred is obviously, it's like, it means, sacred, where it's like something that's of highly importance, and something that's like, it used to be more sacred. It's kind of like the same root, where it's like not everybody knew about it, right? But it's always been there. And it's like geometry is like geo and the metrics, the measurement of the our this reality. The geo is like our earth, right? The measurement. So like you have geometry, which works with like physics, and it works with like understanding how to measure how things are building when you have an infrastructure. But then you have sacred geometry, which is basically how the infrastructures of our realities are within us and how we're built from this reality. So sacred geometry basically has so many different components, but it's very basic, which is circles and lines, or spheres and direction, right? So I teach a workshop for it. So it's like that's usually about a 3-hour workshop to understand the basics of it. But it gets so intricate and deep into understanding that. But basically, what sacred geometry is to me is where science and spirit meet, like where scientific approach meets with spiritual mysticism into like a Venn diagram, right? Like two circles. So it's like you think about it, like the you put it in two different components where like the story of creation. Like if we were to go through like the Judeo-Christian concept of creation, which is the 7 days of creation, God made all this stuff, and then the 7th day he rested, and all that jazz. And then you have the Big Bang Theory, right? Where it was like, all that. So where those two meet is basically they both agree that there is nothing, and then there is something, right? And then they both came from one constant, right? So both agree that is a big explosion or a big oneness, right? And then they both agree that their light is involved with it, like light.
Let
right?
there be light.
Yeah, exactly. So like light itself is like a vibration. So they both understand that it's waves, right? And what are those waves made out of, right? So basically, in the story of like one of the symbols of sacred geometry is the flower of life. And you've probably seen it everywhere nowadays, where most people have them tattooed on there, and they got this whole thing. Sometimes I'll teach a workshop and they'll have the tattoo, and then they'll be like the flower of life. I'm like, no, that's Metatron's cube. The flower of life is before that, because so there's like the germ of life, which, and then there's the seed of life, then there's the flower, then the fruit, and then the tree. So there's all these, and all it is just more circles. And basically, if I were to give you a visual workshop, it's a whole thing how it works, right? So basically, with these symbols, there were not creations, but there were discoveries and things that were like that have been passed on from ancient times, from before, like Plato is basically the bridge that brought in this idea into the modern Western idea of our, believe it or not, how old that is, it is kind of modern. So it's like, so like Plato, like that's why, they ever heard of the word Platonic solids?
Yes.
So the Platonic solids, right? There's 5 of them. There's and each one of them represents an element, right? There's fire, earth, wind, water, and the 5th element.
Ethers.
Yes.
Or
heart or energy. Yeah, the ether, the energy. It could also be like prana, basically that holds the glue together of everything. So those Platonic solids are basically 3-dimensional components that have equal length size, equal amount of all their angles are the same. It's a whole thing. And there's like 5 of them. And there's like, like one of them is like a dice, right? The hexahedron. So that's the one for the earth, right? And then one of them is like a pyramid. It's like a 4-sided pyramid. And that one represents fire. It looks like a triangle. All this stuff, right? Basically, those things are the elemental building blocks of everything in our surrounding that's all around us. So basically, if you were to look at a periodic elemental table, each one of those represent and are being like the compound components are based on those sacred Platonic solid building blocks of those elements like gas and
what about human genetics?
Including that. So basically, like what are we are also built out of those 5 elements,
right.
Like we have a certain amount of water that we're built out of. We are built out of iron and different minerals as well, which is like where you get into the earth,
and then the patterns also, right?
The oxygen we breathe in, the breathing exercise like that. It's like also part of that air elemental thing, and then and the fire, like energy, our passion, our love,
or Agni.
And then you have the ether that is like the prana, the energy,
the life
like
force.
the life force. Like when we die, we're like you can't just plug us into something and shock. I mean, you can shock people back into existence with like what are they called, fibrillators or whatever, like
Defibrillator.
and then that's just more like what is that, like to get the heart pumping back
Yeah,
again.
it restarts the heart, or it
Yeah.
shocks the heart back into pumping.
To pumping what that love and energy and then, like the charisma of wanting to be alive,
Right.
even though it's like not conscious, but it's subconsciously.
I mean, if the ether has already left the building or left the body,
then
that's
it's
where
like,
you may find or have people that are
it's
just
out.
in a coma or alive but on life support, and it's like, hey.
But then also, like, I mean, that's a good thing we should talk about, like eventually about comas. I always wondered about. I'm a script writer too. I like to make films, and I always had a script about that, where like, where does one go?
But can we relate for sacred geometry to maybe like, helping us discover the deeper things in life, or where does sacred geometry come into play in our practical life, and is it like a blueprint of the soul, or how do you describe?
So basically, one thing I like to do in my workshop is basically everything starts with one circle, and that was like the Big Bang, right? And I always tell people is like that one circle is like technically like your soul, right? And that circle is like what you go back to center, because when you're drawing these circles, so you need a compass, right, and a square ruler. When you're drawing these circles, you'll start going fucking haywire, and they start looking like shit. And that's just because we keep going into life, and then next thing you know, your compass starts changing different sizes, and that's where the chaos comes in. So when you're putting all these circles into fruition to create your flower of life, and your compass starts, your moral compass starts fucking up, then like you end up having, things that are
wreaking havoc on your life.
So basically, what I always tell people is like when they're drawing the flower of life, go back to your original circle, your center yourself, remeasure that compass, and then go see where you fucked up or whatever. And then they'll be like, oh, there it is, that's the circle, because it's a little off or slightly off, and then you reharmonize and balance yourself. Basically, it's like doing that exercise. That's why I like sacred geometry is like you're creating like these mantras, basically, mandalas, and it keeps you focused and centered, right? And then you're like, some people get irritated because it's not working how they want it to work. Because some people just get so frustrated at not being perfect. And that, like, not being perfect is like, well, fuck with you, because that's impossible.
It is impossible.
I don't know if you want to see me try to manage one of these compasses and make circles, because I would probably be that person that needs the perfect circle, and as soon as it's off, I'm like, nope, it's off. I gotta reset it. Or see me fold paper, or see me just a lot of the things that I do. It's like, if it's not just like this. And it probably gets me in trouble a little sometimes, but like, oh, it's all fucked up. It's all just a little.
See, like, that's where like personality comes in though. Like, because someone like you train, you're always prepping, all that stuff. You would probably go buy a fucking $300 compass to make sure that shit's precision tight, engineering.
No doubt. If I was getting into it, I would absolutely
and then your circles would be easier to be perfect all that. But somewhere along the line, you might fuck up, and that's gonna be okay. But so when I teach these workshops, it's interesting because like you have, I get all different kinds of people because I don't teach to artists. I mean, some people are artists and they happen to be there. I teach to everybody. I think everybody needs to learn this stuff because it's like, it really is like the blueprint of our existence, not just scientifically in terms of like how our elemental building blocks, but also how we center ourselves and we generate our spiritual foundation, right? And even if I've done classes where there's people there that they were atheists, and after I showed them the class, they were like it gave them a glimpse of the idea that there is a harmony, or that there is a and what do you call that? A blueprint. You know, that there is an architect. That there's an architect behind
That's a good word.
our building.
That's pretty
And-
awesome.
Yeah, and it was like, you know, it's like when I get people like that, like it really like, you know, hits me, because like at least I'm not preaching like a religion. I'm not preaching like a cult or anything. I do joke around and be like, hey, welcome to my cult and all that. But it's like, no, it's not like, because like it's like I'm just telling you what I've read and things that I've like learned that are out there, and you could go out there and look for it yourself, because a lot of it I'm probably wrong too, you know. So it's like but when they get through that, they really kind of like opens their eye and the idea of how everything works. Because like I also teach it into how prayer and meditation, how it correlates with sacred geometry and like crystallization of our manifestations and stuff. Because like basically like in sacred geometry, you understand that in the beginning there was nothing, and then there was something. And what is that something? Is that consciousness, right? Is the awareness? Is that like when God knew itself, and that knowing itself is what creates, you know, a big thing. So then in the first day of creation is when you have two circles, it creates a Venn diagram. That's what you call the germ of life.
Right.
And it's when it's two circles interlining and it's a Venn diagram. And then that creates your next 2 points, because then you move your compass to the other 2 points that intersect to one another circles, and you do another, and it's basically 6 circles around that one circle.
Right.
And that's what's called the 7 days of creation. So each one circle creates a new understanding or whatnot. And that's
Is your workshop 7 days long?
Yeah, it should be.
Well, no, it would be 6 days long, and then he gets a day to rest, or everybody
Right?
gets a day to
Exactly. Yeah.
So for somebody like out there listening to what you're saying, and they're, you know, like interested in this concept, so you teach this workshop, and people, how can they apply this knowledge like in a practical way now on a daily basis? Or for those who can't make it to your class, how can you talk about sacred geometry in a way that people can have a higher awareness about it?
Yeah.
And start to like utilize its.
Well, it's not necessarily utilizing sacred geometry exactly.
Yeah.
I think sacred geometry is good to know if you want to know like a big foundation of our reality and how everything is like kind of built from, in a very simple way. You'll start also learning a lot of the symbols that you see throughout religions through the aeons. Like for example, one of the symbols is the germ of life, but it's two in a circle, and then in between it creates this womb. That's what it's called, the vesica Pisces.
Oh yeah.
And then out of the vesica Pisces is basically, the vesica Pisces is like the vessel of the fish, right? Because it looks, when you cut out the rest of the circle, it looks like a Jesus fish.
Yeah.
And that's where the actually symbol, when you see soccer mom vans have the little fish in their back, it's basically a vesica Pisces. That's a symbol from sacred geometry. But they don't know that, because they think it's like Jesus created multiplied fishes or whatever. But it's really, Jesus is, because we're living in the age of Pisces right now. Well, actually, we're shifting into the age, a new age of Aquarius, right? Yeah. So these last 2,000 years, we've been living in the house of Christ, in the house of Pisces. And that's where like that symbol comes from.
Now, that makes sense. I wonder, what are they like? You used to mention that Jesus makes and multiplies the fish. I thought I had heard something else for that, or for the reason that symbol was.
There's multiple layers to one symbol and different ways to interpretation. And
I'm just thinking like soccer mom brain. What is she, like, where
yeah, she just thinks it's like those, you know, she goes to probably those Christian bank churches, and they sing, and they all look like banks to me. And there's like, and they'll go do their singing, and it's beautiful. That's the way they can handle the spirituality, and it can be toxic sometimes, because then certain places like to grab these powers, these symbols, and they take advantage of the people. And that's how it's been on forever, like the Roman Catholic Church and all that stuff. But not all the whole churches are that within it. Everything is broken down to the individual moral ethic choice that they choose to do what is given to them.
Right.
you know.
I think a
So-
really good example of that, and I don't know if Lisa's seen it or you, but the movie with Denzel Washington, The Book of Eli. He was blind, and this was apocalyptic world. So he was just walking, traveling along, and he had a book that he was protecting, and people kept coming after it and coming after him. And of course, he's Denzel, so he kicks ass. But it turns out that there was a man who was sending everybody trying to find the book. They was always sending them out to try to find this book, and the book turned out to be the Bible. And the reason this guy wanted the Bible so bad was because he knew that if he produced this scripture to the people of his clan or his city or his like in his area, he would have ultimate control.
Yeah.
He would be able to now control these people even more so. He was still their leader, but he knew that that would be even bigger. So
yeah, I mean, the Bible does have a lot of information, and in fact, it has a lot of that idea of sacred geometry within it.
yeah,
It's just in different. I mean, each time you get it, it's edited by someone else, like King James.
I tried to read the King James.
But yeah, I
really
mean, not to
hard.
get too much into religious stuff. Basically, what I was getting at is that a lot of these different symbols that we've seen throughout the ages are all derived from sacred geometry. And basically Plato was the one that bridged it from the Phoenicians, I think, and then you got the Egyptians, and then you got before that even further. I don't know if we want to get deep into the occult of the Atlantis and then Lemurians.
Actually, that came up today on one of my interviews. So I mean, hey,
Cool.
if we want to go there.
About the Lemurians or the
Atlantis.
Yeah. I mean, Atlantis was basically the product of the Lemurians, but it was like scientific based. Like it was a harmony and spirituality civilization at first, but then people again wanted to harness that power, take it to themselves,
And fuck it up.
we fuck it up, and then they destroyed their civilization, or civilizations got destroyed regardless because of nature.
Right. Or can we relate that to the Earth, this new Earth? I think what try is this for humanity?
Right, like yeah, because like if we what kind of world we're living in now, looking at the Z, like you're driving, you're stuck in traffic, and you're like just think, what the fuck did we do to get here as a civilization? Like we could all be on one like monorail getting to where we need to go, but no, we all have this like idea of ego that I need my own car and my own thing. It's the me, and I am entitled to everything in the world, and then it creates this like disharmony with the world that we're living in.
And the more we evolve, and the more we with technology and all of that, it just gets worse and worse, I think, for the ego.
Yeah, the thing is, like, our technology isn't necessarily a bad thing. It helps us, right? But it's like it's how we're going about it, how we're crystallizing it.
Yeah.
And that's because we're crystallizing. So basically, this goes back to the idea of meditation and prayer, right? So like our sacred geometry works is like the circle create or it's not necessarily circles, it's a sphere. Technically, 3-dimensional spheres comes out, and another one comes out. Like when we're born in the womb, there's like all these spheres, and it crystallizes. How does that happen? When like two have sex, and then fucking thing goes in there, just explodes, and it creates a universe. It's literally and the woman is like this, they're like a cosmic portal, right? You're bringing in a life, and then come out, and you're like screaming, like, what the fuck, I'm back here, because you reincarnated. It's a whole another talk about that. But basically, like, you crystallized a human out of your
It's like
coming out. And that's like insanity of like, it's a crazy miracle, like that, how that happens. So like the same idea is like goes with thoughts and our emotions and our energy. So like, so when we do prayer, one of the cool things I've learned in AA was like prayer is you speak with God, and meditation is you listen to God.
Yeah, exactly.
And basically what you're doing with prayer, like you're close your eyes, you're putting intention, you're throwing this energy, the whole idea of quantum physics. I don't want to get into like the secret, all that bullshit. It's not like, I want to give me a red coat type bullshit. Like it's the it's when you're literally like connecting all portions of your life being and putting that like idea physical mind crystallization into the world, right? So that's why, like, I would like think you crystals and like I'm not a big crystal guy, but I do carry crystals with me, just because it's like.
Well, you guys are talking about that. I have to go get something cool to show you that I just thought of.
Okay, but like
not a big crystal guy, he says, but I do carry crystals with me.
I carry on because it's like I don't know they're symbols, right? And that's like it's an intention, right? And like also I put my evil eye. It's not like this thing's actually like protecting me, but like it's like me having it is like creating a correlation in energy that's actually building an actual infrastructure by me thinking it could be a rock, it could be just a regular gravel rock that I put intention into in love, and that love and intention is what actually creates the magic. That's why like sacred geometry shows you how that crystallizes and from like the ether into the to the physical, right? So like we think about how a tree comes from a seed, that tiny little thing has all the information that it needs to build this insane huge tree. Same with us, right? We have all this tiny little information that's like literally, and it's like you could say that it's coming out of nowhere, but there is no nowhere. It's always somewhere. It's always there. It was pre-manifested before we even knew it was already there. It's just kind of like our way that we are building that idea mentally and like through our heart, emotionally, like or like gut, like using our different 7 chakras, right? Like to combine the idea of the light, are literally guiding whatever it is that is already there out of us. And this is kind of basically where I'm getting at about the idea that like we all need to be creative, right? That like creativity is like the main I feel like it's like the main purpose in our life and us as humans or beings, whatever you want to call it. Like our main purpose is to be creative, whether that's baking something, growing something like out there, building designing a building,
even literally creation of another human being.
Human.
That's
a huge drive for a lot of people. And
like when we do like a creative thought like this, right? Like this, it's a photograph. Like it's creating images in our synapses that are evolves into a dream. Like maybe just even though I wasn't paying attention to it that much, it might subconsciously go into my mind. I go home and I sleep, I'm gonna think about that lighthouse and that road. It's got kind of a liminal look, and I'll end up there. And then what does that do? It gives me like a certain emotion. The next day I'd be like, you know what? I should go to like the sea and check out that lighthouse. And then you go there and you create, and then you meet somebody. Let's say you meet your love of your life there, and then you create a baby. All because of that one visual understanding of chain reactions of events that create that. So that's why when you do prayer and meditation, you're praying, you're visualizing, you're using your imagination, right? So when you're praying, you're like, dear God, I want this and that to help. I want to help that person out. You're like imagining it, and like that's why the more prayers you have, it's like becomes a group thing, okay? And it creates, and then it's like, and then what you're doing is you're literally using your imagination in order to understand what this world could possibly be.
Yeah.
So if you imagine what harmony you can see this world, like that's you using your imagination, because then that drives you into wanting to see that. Like, imagine what do you imagine yourself as, what the perfect, beautiful world would be out there, right? And then that's like you putting it into your path, and then it creates it. So like, when it comes to creativity, when you're painting and you're like drawing or you're writing, like you're literally using the force of the universe and you're channeling it through you, and you're you are the manifestation that creates it.
In my case, it'd be cooking in that flow state. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's why I always think people are like, I'm trying to manifest this thing right now. And it's like, well, you're just sitting there.
Yeah.
You're not going to manifest shit.
Yeah.
You could just look at a wall and it's not going to pop up. Or some people be like, see, I knew that was going to come and it's going to manifest. It's like, did you have some sort of commercial tell you that you wanted that and somehow it popped up? Especially nowadays with our phones, like they're listening to our shit. And then it's just like, oh, how does it know?
Like, I have a question for you. So, like, you're saying the importance of, this creativity in life for all. On the opposite end of the spectrum, if there's blockages and stagnation and the energy is stifled and there is no creativity, do you sort of implode, and does that create like
it becomes an animosity? Like like a lot of people, like especially like even our day and age, like we've been kind of like taught as children that stop doodling, stop coloring, because now you're like
stop dreaming.
Now you gotta start learning how to do your taxes, which I still need to learn how to do my taxes right now. But like basically they're like, oh, now you're adulting. Like now you're become important by becoming a fucking slave. It's like it's bullshit. It's like no, because like you gotta keep coloring, you gotta keep imagining, you gotta like write that book you always want to write, that story.
Create that fucking podcast that you've been dreaming about.
Yeah, there you go. So it's like wanting that want, that purpose is what really drives us, right? And then some people like tend to be happy where they are, technically, but are they really? How colorful is that happiness, right? Is it like I'm okay with just me going to work and get home, drink my beer, and watch the game, and then just gonna nothing wrong with that, but like what is like eventually like those marriages, how do they evolve with that, right? Like
or these
and then they don't, like the communication starts lacking and all that. But now imagine like a mechanic is working on cars all day, it's like technical, and then he gets home and he gets to play the guitar. That's like you're using rational thought, like your masculine energy, and you're using creativity, your feminine energy, and then that mechanic becomes more evolved into his or her way to understand how precious her life can become further, right? Same goes with an artist. Like there's an artist, she's painting all day, but then what is she painting about if there's no actual like other things to live about? You know what I'm saying? So like let's say you're like successful art musician, and then but you sang all your trials and tribulations, so what are you gonna sing about now? So it's like you gotta like go into the other realm and find what other thing you can do that is gonna bring that masculine energy and the feminine energy needs to be in a balance. That all has to do with sacred geometry, because in sacred geometry you have basically circles and lines, right? The lines are the masculine energy, and the circles are the feminine energy. So what do you got there?
So I just happen to remember that I'm not just like you're not too into crystals. I'm not too into oracle decks, but I do have a few that are near and dear to my heart and so much fun to play around with. I went through this whole phase of diving really deep into sacred geometry, maybe not as deep as you, where it was really speaking to me. So just for fun, obviously this is just one expression of whatever artist created this, and so I like playing around with it. And since we're on the topic and I open up to the flower of life, right, it has all the information and more in here to begin to like kind of spur that creativity or bring a message through and get people thinking about the symbols and the patterns that are present within all. That's a cool I thought maybe we can play around with it.
Let's do it.
But
I mean, you can talk in the meantime. I'll just get them ready.
Yeah. So like what I was getting at is that like imagine like if we as a society all encompass that idea of like having a trade job, right? Knowing how to fix it, like plumbing or electricity and building a house, but also knowing how to like paint a mural or write a screen or write a theater play or bake a cake or like and then if we as humans do all of that, like we balance like two different ways of being, you basically create this unity that like I feel that overall will connect one another as a whole. Because like right now you look at society, everything is like left or right, right? You're like either you're, you know, conservative or retard or whatever, and it's like why can't it just be in the purple? Like why can't it just be both? Because it's like we're just taught, like our system, the elite system knows this, and it wants the chaos, because with the chaos it controls the person, the individual. So that's where like it's taking advantage of their center, because like you gotta like take back that center and have the understanding that, because like you don't have to be this thing, like, because like I feel like there's a lot that happens in the like the last 100 years is like understanding how we lost our culture, right? So like people kind of lost what it is to be an American, right? What is it to be American? And some people on the left are like, this is what it is to be American. Some people on the right, no, this is what it is to be American. But it's like we just kind of got herded into two separate ways of being. In reality, being American is like United States, you know? Like we're like, we could both be gun aficionados and go paint a mural.
But the powers that be don't want that, because they're trying to instill control and pin.
Yeah, because then like if like the people, if everybody like was in union, then it'd be like, then we'd actually have our harmony, and then having that harmony is like what it's like. Then they can't sell what they're trying to sell, you know. And then you know, you could be like, you know, like a lot of the ideas of even our diets and all that, like how everything is just prepackaged to like follow this rhythm, you know. Like you get like an anarchist crust punk, right? You get like be like fuck the system, fuck the government, all this stuff, and then you have like some kind of redneck like militia dude. It's like fuck the system, like this. They're both right there. They're like, you guys should hold hands and like hang out, like as you guys. And then it's like one is like all about the system. They like the crust punks are like, yeah, I'm not part of the system. It's like, dude, you're drinking fucking beer that's created by a corporation right now. Yeah. Like unless you're making your own alcohol, you ain't got nothing. You know, you're embedded into the system of like the same patterns that are like created. So it's like, I don't know. I feel that if we tap deeper into our own imaginations, the imagination is the powerful tool that we really create and can like picture. It's like about being able to picture a situation. So
and then
like,
crystallize those pictures.
Yeah, exactly. And then what you're doing is you're evolving as a whole. Is like, you know, that's why like we've always had fairy tales throughout our lives, like, you know, like Alice in Wonderland and you know, Wizard of Oz, even though they're like written by weirdos. Like, and there's a whole thing of that, but like those stories were created to unlock things in our heads, to imagine the absurd, to imagine the outer worlds and the dream, what's beyond the physical, the mundane. But it's like, this world isn't mundane at all.
No.
You know, we think about like the whole idea of Pokemon, right? Like everyone's in their Pokemon Go, they're getting their fucking animals, but it's like, dude, there's rabbits literally right next to you. Yeah. That's a fucking Pokemon right there. Like there's a cat, there's like animals, there's wildlife, like there's like, why don't you just go take pictures of them and collect them all in photos, you know? So it's like it's like an idea that like we want to go further away from this reality, because, and we want to use tech, we want to use virtual reality, we want to use AI to give us the imagination that we've been getting depleted from. So it's like our imagination as a society has become less and less, because technology's been giving us more and more, like high fructose corn syrup, you know, of like visual, of great visual ideas. So like we're always on our phone, we're just fucking swiping,
depleting our dopamine.
Yep, and it's telling us what to imagine, and then like you're looking at images that are already like prefabricated, and then it's like, where's your imagination? Why can't you imagine something and then make it out of the ether? because
Just a
we
good
are.
example, even when it comes to like little things like spell check or
Mhm.
maps and everything, like before you had to access certain parts of
Yeah.
your brain and be able to like learn these things.
Even just like
and retain
GPS.
information. So it's kind of like implanting all this.
Yeah, even GPS is like fine. You don't know how to get to a place, that's fine, and then you get it and you learn. You follow your phone. I know some people that they've lived in Florida all their life and they still don't know how to get to a certain point without the GPS.
Yeah, this is saying
it's like-
technology is a blessing and a burden. That's also
Yeah.
making us complacent in so many ways.
Exactly, and it's like you just have to how you're gonna imagine like where you're gonna be. Like look at the surrounding roads, what different. And it sucks
Right.
because like obviously America's become like this crazy infrastructure of the same fucking box stores everywhere you go.
Yeah.
You know, like
Especially
I've
Florida.
traveled to like every state in America except for like Hawaii and Alaska, and everywhere you go is the same fucking things.
Mhm.
And like unless you get off those highways and you go, to those smaller towns, but even those smaller towns now are looking exactly the same because they're all like, oh, we're gonna start a brewery, we're gonna start
Yeah.
this coffee house. It's like, why do you have to repeat the same fucking thing? Why don't you make something weird? Like, make something fucked up, because like just to make people like think outside the same fucking patterns.
Yeah.
Because it's like the use your imagination, be creative, and you don't have to be an artist to do that. You just have to be a human, and that's what the cosmos gave us this gift.
So how
Of
would you
imagination.
recommend that somebody listening who may not be an artist, like you
Mhm.
say, you don't have to be an artist, but it's an important quality to have. How would you recommend that the average Joe
Mm-hmm.
tap into this and be able to like improve or
Mhm.
expand their consciousness and their imagination and
Yeah.
and
The
move in that
very
direction?
simple way of doing that is if you're sitting there and imagine when you were 7. What were you thinking when you were 7 years old? Right? And what did you want to do? Right? Maybe 6 or 5, but like 7 is like the bridge
Yeah.
from where like all the way up to your 7 is like everything that you learned before that is gonna be the blueprint for the rest of your life. That's where a lot of trauma happens too.
Yep.
And I had some trauma too that happened to me before that, and it's like that created a lot of chaos into my life that led a lot into my alcoholism, right?
Mhm.
So it wasn't until like I learned how to cut those traumas off that I understood how to grow from that, right?
Mhm.
But being 7 is like you're like we're around that age. It's like the sweet spot of your imagination.
So can you give us an example of when you were that age? What was it that was speaking to you that you can apply now or in your life now?
Well, this is gonna be a bit of a trippy story for you,
Yeah.
but basically, when I was 7, it was the very first time I drew a bird, and so I don't even know how to begin this. So 3 years ago, I went to my friend Diana. She does this child past life regression stuff. She puts you into a trance, and then she does the what is it called, theta healing
Theta, yeah.
and Reiki.
Mhm.
And she did a whole combination of things. She brought me into this like weird like like surreal dimension of myself, and I went through every single one of my chakras like as a temple that she was guiding me. When we got to this, my sacral solar plexus, she brought me to meet my 7-year-old self.
Mhm.
So then I got to meet, and then she told me, like, okay, talk to him, tell him what you want to, that to look forward to, the adventure you want to, who do you want to be to show to that kid? Like, who do you want to become that kid would look up to?
Mhm.
And I was like, I want him to be like a artist, a traveling artist, the adventure, like goes out and tries to help everybody as much as possible, and like love and all this stuff and be hopeful. And then basically it's like, yeah, what do you want to teach him? I'll teach him how to draw. I was teaching my 7-year-old self how to draw, and I drew a bird and all this stuff, and then it was amazing. And I was like, then I say bye to him, and then he's gonna grow, and then I cried.
Wow.
It was such a beautiful experience. I woke up from the trance. It was amazing. And that she basically helped me clear this shit energy, and like my courage just blew up, and like I had such a fucking amazing understanding of my reality and all this stuff. And like the next day I called my mom. I'm like, hey, this is what happened. I was like, and she's the one that told me. She's like, don't you remember when you were 7? You drew a picture of a bird I was in my room. My mom went in my room and she saw the picture and she didn't believe that I drew it
Oh wow.
because it was so well rendered. Like it was a very good picture, and she thought she was freaking out. Thought there was someone else in the room, and she was checking all over, and then it was like she couldn't believe that I drew that. But ever since that day, is like I was basically given this gift of drawing, and like being able to illustrate and like being creative, and it's like, so if you put that idea, it's like and then you think about the consciousness of the infinity of like there is no beginning,
I
middle,
was
or
gonna
end.
say time is non-linear too.
Exactly. So it's like, what if that energy that I, when I went into that, and then I met that energy from the past, and then transferred that kind of things, and like, that's like that.
That's
spark,
another
yeah. But yeah, like going back to what we were talking about, that like, I strongly suggest, and I tell people like, what were you thinking when you were 7? And I was talking to my friend Sophia about like, I was because she was having some problems with like what she wants to do next. I'm like, what did you want to do when you were 7?
And I'm like dying to ask you, Joe, if you have anything that resonates or what comes to mind for you if you take a trip back down.
Yeah, I'm trying, like I've literally been sitting here trying to figure out what grade I would have been in at 7 years old to try and bring myself back to that time in my life to understand or to remember what I was thinking.
More or less, yeah.
So I've always just kind of thought that I started school at like 5 years old, kindergarten 5 years, maybe 6. So 7, I would have been in 1st or 2nd grade. I remember having art class. I remember making pottery in that class. That wasn't my first memory. I think I was at some point shortly after that starting to get into sports. I was playing baseball. Actually, I was playing t-ball baseball from a pretty young age. And so I guess that sports was always involved in my life. But as far as creativity,
which also sports could be creative. It is like, in fact, a very creative way of how you're gonna execute a certain pattern of your life. Because when you're like hitting that fucking ball, you gotta know how to do that.
And you're in a flow state, right? Also.
And once you know that physical way of patterning, then that's when you become creative. Like, how am I gonna trick that kid into thinking in my head over there, and then that, and that,
right.
That's creative energy. That's using your imagination. So like but you're also a musician, right? Like you're.
Yeah, but I didn't do that until much later. That was high school.
And then we think what stemmed from that, right?
Well, as a matter of fact, when I was in high school, I had a knee injury toward my ACL playing football, first day of senior year. And that sidelined me. I had surgery, couldn't run, couldn't do any athletics. So as a result, to pass the time or to figure out what can I do, I picked up the guitar and started learning how to play the guitar, and that led me into the whole music scene.
Exactly. So now what happened? Why the guitar, right? Like, why not the drums? Why not a flute? And then it's like,
right.
Exactly. So it's like there's a pattern that goes beyond that, probably from your parents or something.
Sister had a guitar.
Your sister play guitar?
She did not play guitar, but she had a guitar.
She had a guitar.
So I used that one, started playing it. A friend of mine also, one of my best friends growing up, had electric guitar. I said, hey, this has been pretty fun. Let me get his electric guitar. That turned out to be a hell of a lot easier to play than my sister's cheap acoustic guitar, where it was almost a 1/4 to 1/2 inch of distance from the string to the fretboard. So I mean, that thing had built some strength in my fingers. So I put that electric, I was like, oh, this is amazing. So I guess that little simple progression of going from this is really hard to wow, how smooth and easy.
That spark.
Yeah,
yes.
that just continued.
And that exercise, that spark and energy is what helps keeps us like alive, right? And it's like, and that's why it's weird, because it's like as kids, like you're singing, right, or you're putting on a dress and pretending to be an adult. You're acting. So that's also creativity, right? You're splattering shit on the wall because you want to make things weird and different. That's all creativity. So it's like if an adult now, you just have to remember what it is that you always wanted to do. Because what happens is sometimes you're singing, and then one day your dad will be like, "Can you shut it down?" or your mom be like,
mhm.
can you go sing in your room, or and then they don't intentionally try to be villains. They're just in their own ego, in their own storm, and they send that back to you, and you're like, for the first time in your life, you're like realizing that you're not that important and special, and that your creativity is not important and special, and then you fucking put that down, you shut it down, and then you become an adult, you know?
And also psychically we're open until the age of 7, until that programming conditioning starts to really take place. So it's just a product of society. It's not even just our parents, who may be well-intentioned or not, right? Like in my case, it was a really traumatic, chaotic environment that stifled my creativity and my voice and so much more. But it's also the teachers, it's the religious organization that we're born into, and all of the things. And for me, when I think of like 7 or younger, what came to mind was just my love and obsession for animals, which will make sense in a moment, because even though that was not a creative outlet back then, what it led to was me, like in my moral compass and finding the right journey for me was that, giving up eating animals and all that, because that's also a program, and we're conditioned to believe that we have to do that, and we're on our path. But the fact that I stopped eating meat and stopped eating animals, and grew up with no knowledge of nutrition or food or cooking, zero skill set, until later on in life, my love for animals and eating a certain way sparked such a curiosity on how to feed myself, how to prepare food, and that opened the gateway toward me diving deep into the culinary realm, and get my creative juices flowing on such a profound level that I can't even put to words, because there's no words to describe. So it all started with my love for animals and that deep level of empathy and compassion. And eventually later on in life, if I just think back to childhood, that's just what stuck out for me, knowing that there's a connection and everything's divinely interwoven. And somehow I was going to end up doing this. I would have laughed, if anybody would have told me that this is what I would have been doing professionally and creatively.
So like, wait, so did you say something about singing in there?
No singing whatsoever.
No, like did you have some sort of, I thought you said something about like, shutting down, but anyway, so like.
Oh, shutting down, but my voice, but not in singing, just even being able to
speak
to
out
express,
loud.
to speak. I was like mute
Sealing
for a while.
your
All
throat
this stuff.
chakra.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why in this lifetime, part of my journey, even growing up with strep throat and throat issues from a really early age, being constantly taken to the doctor and having to deal with the energetic effects of growing up in a extremely dysfunctional and abusive household. Anyways, now we're getting a little bit off topic, but just saying that there are these little pieces of the puzzle that are present throughout our entire life, and we may not realize the connection.
It is, yeah, exactly. And like if people want to exercise that, just think of that like, some people are like always wanting to play the violin, and then there's a certain point like they're like, oh, you have to start at an early age to learn how to play such an intricate instrument, and like you don't, you could just start now. You could like literally go and fucking start learning how to lay brick,
that's where a growth mindset comes into play, just on a practical level. If we're taught that you're born with innate gifts or not, versus I can work my ass off and develop these gifts and be able to deliver and offer it up to the world, not just like I have to be born with it.
It's like also like the idea of like if you're a musician, you're like, oh, you have to go be fucking on stage and become famous and all this. Like, no, like that's a sickness to wanting to be famous and all this stuff. Like that's how. I mean, some people are born for it. They're natural. They're Leos, whatever. And it's like, but like it's like about the exercise of creating it. And that's why like I always think everybody should sing. Like even if you think you suck at it, you should sing, because it's like it's such a like you're a singing bowl. You know how singing bowls work?
Yes.
You are one. So when you sing and you resonate and you start learning how to tune yourself, you're actually vibrating something outside of you, Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, everything's vibrations.
And
Yeah.
similarly, like just stating a mantra, a word of power, and singing that can be a form of singing.
Yes, it's a
And that's
form
what I
of prayer.
resonate with, exactly. And also,
Mhm.
just tuning the energy and being able to open up that creativity
that's a
and
form of
align.
meditation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't have to like go sing like a real song. It could also be.
It just be la la la
Yeah.
la.
Yeah, it could be channeling light
I think
language.
that's why like most of the music I listen to is like has no lyrics and just it's just weird shit. Like and that's all like basically because then it lets me imagine the own words for me and my own emotion translation. So, but yeah, I don't know. I think that's a key to everybody becoming more in tune with themselves and those around them is finding that creative output. That whether it's guitar, whether it's drums, it's painting, writing a script, writing a story. Like throwing an orange at a tree, so you could like make an expression.
Yeah.
Out of weirdness. Like
Yes.
get weird because weird is like fun and imaginative and then it opens up new doors of the impossible become possible. And then it gives us like a freedom to think that what you want to see in this world is possible. And like get you away from the patterns that they have us into thinking that this is solid, this is it, and you just fucking go with it until you die. But it's not. This is fucking wavy. Everything is a groove, and you have to like create and like be weird and evolve into your imagination.
Be weird, be gifted, own it.
Own it. Righteous.
Do we want to play with cards for a little bit?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
For whoever's listening and not watching this, because I know that we're running out of time here. I have a oracle deck. It's a sacred geometry oracle deck from probably 15, 20 years ago. So maybe we'll just ask a collective question here. We'll tune into the energy of the deck, just taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. And a big cleansing breath out of the mouth. We can all just like put our energy into the cards. So like each one of us, here we go, just infusing it with our love and our highest intention. And we can ask a question on behalf of the collective in this room. Just a meaning, a message from this deck. What is it that we need to know as a group here? We've come here to spread a message, to be here together, to connect, and offer some insight to whoever's listening or watching. So what is it that the people watching need to know? What do we need to know in this moment while we're on our journey, trying to tune into creativity and just be the highest, bestest, most evolved versions of ourselves? And yes, we're allowed to make up words. It's my podcast.
Creativity.
All right.
Right there.
Anything else you'd like to add, guys?
Good.
Okay, so now.
Let's see what the deck beholds.
Yeah, let's see. Who wants to be the one that chooses it?
Well, it gives real guest.
Okay,
Be
so
the
let's,
chooser.
however you need to put this into play here. All right. Hey, you should interpret it too, by the way.
Vesica Pisces.
Oh, we were talking about it earlier.
Oh.
So what is your interpretation of it? And I'm just going to open it up.
That's wild.
Yeah.
How
yeah,
do they know?
I know, right? Well, my interpretation is like the vessel. This is the beginning of all physical manifestations.
And this is what we're talking
Like
about.
the red, yeah. This is the two conjoining circles I was talking about that creates the Jesus fish. It's right there.
Yeah.
And with the vessel, it creates, it's the eye of consciousness too, right?
And then
So
it has like a little breakdown here too,
Mhm.
talking about the different aspects of beingness. And I'll just read it for fun. So we've got,
Can I see the card too? I'm gonna
Mhm.
show it to
Oh, yeah.
our watchers. I don't know. Maybe you can see it. I hope you can. We'll see.
so it's a sacred circle spread, and the spread speaks of the integration of the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies, which sums up free-flowing health. It is designed in the form of a mandala, or traditional medicine wheel. It uses 4 directions in the circle to represent the aspects of self and how they relate to the goal of becoming whole. You may ask to invoke the medicine of 4 directions to guide you in connecting with these aspects of self. And then it has some instructions on how to do that. So
what does it say about Vesica Pisces?
am I looking at the wrong number here?
Mhm.
Oh, I was looking at the wrong one.
No, but you were looking
At
at
the spread.
yeah.
Oops.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, number 8. Sorry.
No, you're good, Queen. Let's see what it's.
It's been a hot minute since I opened this, and I
This
thought
is an
like,
awesome one. I've never seen this one.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
the
really
birth
cool.
portal. Yeah.
okay, so
That's
can you read a little
portal.
bit?
Yeah, the number 2 becomes creation through the vesica Pisces. It is the interpretation of 2 circles or spheres representing 2 holes as a whole, not a hole. And it becomes a birth portal. The whole consciousness about it is the birthing place where people and ideas join in mutual understanding and common ground. So this is what I was talking about, the Venn diagram, where it's like the
Sorry, I was reading the wrong shit.
the
Yeah.
scientific and the spiritual be together. This card asks you to examine the interactions you have with loved ones and colleagues. Are you co-creating as a synergistic expression of shared wisdom and respect? Are you seeing eye to eye? Are you mutually speaking your truth? Then choosing the vesica Pisces confirms the wholeness of your relationships and honors the potential that comes into being as a result of respect and cooperation. And this ties in how, as a whole civilization and society, we need to come together in that union. If, on the other hand, the spheres of influence overlap in an off-center configuration, you will likely find yourself dissatisfied and looking elsewhere for completion. That's when things go out of harmony. We're looking for something new.
Something outside ourselves.
Yeah, and then here comes MAGA to tell you how to be, and here comes Clinton's to tell you how to be. Whatever it is it's another outside force knowing that you're vulnerable, and they knowing, telling you what to do and how to feel and who to hate. You know? Take action to bring about this adjustment so that all your relationships birth into growth and greater understanding. You are, so if it's reversed, as you are in alignment, the subject of your inquiry will take considerable effort by blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. That's wild.
So that was the message for the collective, everybody.
Yeah, and that was like basically the whole idea of what we're talking about.
I know. So your journey has led you to like embarking on Sunday, like you said, on a European art tour. Do you want to just say a little bit about that?
Yeah, basically, about a year ago at 3 a.m, I was just randomly on the phone because I couldn't go to bed or something. I was going through some shitty stuff, and I went to go find some other completion somewhere else. And sure enough, this thing popped up. It said, "Hey, it's an artist in residency in the chateau in France." So I'm like, "What the hell? I'll just sign up for it." And I signed up for it. Never heard back from them. A year later, they put up the thing comes up again, and it's like, "Hey, what the hell?" They never gave me a go fuck yourself or hey, you're. So I'm like, at least a letter to say sorry that you're not welcome or whatever. So I messaged them like, "Hey, I never received anything from you guys," and they're like, "Let me look it up." And then the next day they're like, "Actually, we did accept you. You were accepted, and we sent you a letter." And it went probably to your spam, and I checked my spam and sure enough.
But everything is divine timing, right?
It is, because I got accepted right away, and since I was going through some kind of crappy stuff, it led to like I wouldn't be mentally ready or financially ready to go do on this trip. And it took a year for me to get all this shit that happened. The hurricane happened, all this stuff happened, and then next thing you know, like all of a sudden it's like, yeah, now you could pick but you're still accepted, not just pick a date or a month where you want to come in. And it was like, I asked my boss, and then that's why I love that job. They're like, "Hey, you go do your art journey." I'm like, they're like, "April's the best, day for you to go, Miss, I'm like, "Yeah, I'll do it." And so sure enough, I signed up, I'm ready to go. It's like a artist in residencies, like for those who don't know, that I don't know either. And I signed up for it. I got some grants out of it, but I still had to like put a lot of money into it outside of my the grants that were given to me. So basically it's like for 4 weeks I go to this this chateau in like the middle of nowhere in France, in this like wooded forest area. And you basically just focus on artwork and use that power of imagination and focus and create what you're going to be creating
with the whole group.
Well, no, you do your own thing, but you're with other people from all over the world. You're with different artists, and they all have their own studio, their own room, and you all kind of mingle, and then you party, and you like create together, and then you go back and do your thing. Basically, inspire from the trip. So, that's what's happening, and basically, I'm like, I've never left the continent. Like it's like first time in Europe, so I'm like, I might as well go and explore a little before and after. So I booked my flight to Barcelona a week before because I wanted to visit Salvador Dali's house and museum that's over there. I know there's one in St. Petersburg and all
Yeah.
that, but over there's like like his actual castle and all this shit.
Spot.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna go to Barcelona, then to Figueras, then go to Paris and kind of check out Paris, see what is there. I wasn't really looking forward to Paris, but like someone, like they're like, just do it. You're like, okay, because I'm not big into. I hate like tourist traps and all that. So I'm doing it, and then basically from there I go to my 4 weeks residency. After that, I go down to Milan to visit this. There's a temple in the middle, in the woods, in the mountains, because it's by Turin, and between Turin and Milan, and it's up in the mountains on the mountain beds of the Alps, and it's this place called Damanhur.
Who you calling a whore?
Damanhur. If you want to Google that, you'd be amazed. This place is like underground, and it's like an insane temple with all sacred geometry, visionary artwork.
That sounds dope.
It was created in the 70s and 80s, and it was like they sent the police to go shut it down because it was a cult, like a hippie cult that built it.
Yeah.
But it was like when they went in there, they were so amazed that the government said like, "Whoa, here, have some money, finish what you're doing." Yeah, so
Really?
Shut it down. We couldn't shut it down. Give them more money.
Yeah,
See where this
exactly.
goes.
So it's like a beautiful, insane, like I said, Google it or whatever.
That sounds awesome. Yeah.
And so that's like my last leg of the thing to finish there, and from there I fly from Milan to Miami and come back.
I can't wait to see your incredible creations. It's going to be off the chain.
Even 2 days. That's wild.
We should have brought some of your creations here today.
I was
you
thinking
could always
about
give
that
me
earlier.
JPEGs. You could.
Oh yeah, that's technology, right?
There's a way. Yeah, it's wild. I just realized that it's like because every time I talk about it, I feel like it's months.
Yeah, but it's just like hours.
Yeah, that's
2 sleeps.
I gotta go home and pack.
Wait, one more question though. I like to ask every single guest the same question at the end before you let them know how you can connect with them, or they can connect with you rather. When you hear the term free-flowing health, what does that mean to you?
That's the innate, natural, raw self. It's like just because you have the word health, we think that it's like, oh, you're sick. But it's like, no, you don't have to be sick to achieve health. You are health, right? Like, what is, I wonder what the etymology word of health is, like, holistic or something, like the idea of like, of sanity, right? Like being sano in Spanish is health, healthy. But there's also a thing about the word sanity and sano are probably the same root. So it's like, and you think about santo as saint, like the idea is like free flowing health is you're technically breaking away from the patterns that tell us how to be that make us sick.
That's
awesome.
Really great.
Breaking away from the patterns that make us sick.
I love that. That's like just boom again.
Yeah.
Joe, do you have any closing questions before Israel tells everybody how they can find him?
Oh, I don't think so. If we come up with more questions, we will. I thought I had some earlier, but they've left my head.
Like so much has happened. Yeah, thank you, and I appreciate your time and your insights and really, really cool stuff. So if anybody does want to stay connected, how can they do that?
Yeah, I mean, my website is israelalpizar.com. So it's ISRAELALPIZAR.
Don't worry, we'll have it in the show notes too.
.com. That one's like got a lot of my paintings and like kind of more of my digital media.
Anything for sale?
Yeah, I have a store there with like my I design some clothing and my painting prints and stuff. And
are you still doing freelance work as well, or is that something that's on hold because you're busy?
I mean, graphic design wise, like all that, I try not to, like I have enough on my plate.
Yeah.
And that's like my moneymaker over at the downtown job. But I am always open for commission pieces. I love making commission
that's what we want to
pieces.
make it known.
Yeah, I appreciate like paintings and stuff. I like to do because I do different kinds of paintings. I do acrylic and stuff that are more for like the raves and parties, or simple and fast, and they're still like fun and all that. But when I do something very intentional, I use oil on wood, and I use like incense and crystals and essential oils that I blend with the oils.
Nice.
So the piece becomes more personal and more of a spiritual, ceremonial kind of act. And then also like when someone wants a piece, I basically get their information, like, and if they choose to, they don't have to, but it's like their date of birth, location, and all that. I find your astrological chart, and I look at your numbers and your elements, and then that helps me kind of pick out colors and ideas, and then how to create that specific painting for them. So it becomes more than just like a visual, it becomes like an attachment to that represents what they are in the moment of time where they were born, and the positioning of the planets and like the constellations that are in there.
Yeah, so if you guys resonate, check out his work, commission him to do some kick-ass, profound pieces. And
also, my Instagram
too. Instagram too.
Is AI Creative. It's AYE _ creative.
What about Facebook?
I don't know. I'm there, but it's more a personal one. I mean, you could look me up, but it's Israel Alpizar.
How about LinkedIn?
I have one in there too.
Yeah, who cares about LinkedIn, right?
Probably told us all
that stuff's on my website too, like my email, do I have my number?
And you can sign up for your sacred geometry course from the website, or how do you do that?
Well, basically
I'm about doing that with us.
Yeah, the workshop is usually when I get someone interested, like if you two are interested, and then I come back in May, and each is like, hey, you guys want to do like May 10th or something, and they're like, yeah, we're open that Saturday or whatever. And then I go to other people and be like, hey, I'm having a workshop May 10th, and then they're like, oh, that's perfect, and then people basically
it comes together.
So it's basically it starts with the spark of whoever's interested, and then I create it into the event rather than.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Any closing remarks before we end this, guys?
I don't know. There's so much to know.
Stay weird, be weird, guys.
Get weird. Stop, doing the same thing everybody does, because it just gets stale. Get colorful and get messy, and have fun with your life. Even if we fuck it up, have fun while fucking it up, because then you can then you get the opportunity to fix it back up.
Yeah.
Because I mean, trust me, when I was almost dead, having to start over from scratch was it was fucking awesome.
It's like tabula rasa, blank slate. Who wouldn't love that? To be able to create your heart's desire.
Yeah, because then we have a purpose, and the purpose is to enhance ourselves for the next step.
Yep. And hopefully not reincarnate, but no, just kidding.
Yeah, it's a whole other term.
Thank you.
Got it. All right.
God, how long was that?
I don't know.
That was fun.
An hour and a half.
Yeah.
That just flew by though.